pagodas in Japan are called to, sometimes buttō or tōba, and historically derived from the Chinese pagoda, itself an interpretation of the Indian stupa. Like the stupa, pagodas were originally used as reliquaries, but in many cases they ended up losing this function. Pagodas are quintessentially Buddhist and an important component of Japanese Buddhist temple compounds, but because until the Kami and Buddhist Separation Act of 1868, a Shinto shrine was normally also a Buddhist temple and vice versa, they are not rare at shrines either. The famous Itsukushima Shrine, for example, has one. After the Meiji Restoration, the word to, once used exclusively in a religious context, came to mean also a tower in the Western sense, as for example in Eiffel Tower. Of the Japanese pagodas, many forms, some are built in wood and are collectively known as makato, but most are carved out of stone. Wood pagodas are large buildings with either 2 stories, see photo below, or an odd number of stories. Extant wood pagodas with more than 2 stories have almost always either 3 stories or 5. Stone pagodas are nearly always small, usually well below 3 meters, and as a rule offer no usable space. If they have more than 1 story, pagodas are called tasoto or taryuto. A pagoda size is measured in ken, where a ken is the interval between 2 pillars of a traditional style building. A tahoto, for example, can be either 5 by 5 ken or 3 by 3 ken. The word is usually translated in English as bei, and is better understood as an indication of proportions than as a unit of measurement. History. The stupa was originally a simple mound containing the Buddha's ashes, which in time became more elaborate, while its finial grew proportionally larger. After reaching China, the stupa met the Chinese watchtower and evolved into the pagoda, a tower with an odd number of stories. Its use then spread to Korea and, from there, to Japan. Following its arrival in Japan together with Buddhism in the 6th century, the pagoda became one of the focal points of the early Japanese garon. In Japan it evolved in shape, size and function, finally losing its original role as a reliquary. It also became extremely common, while on the Asian continent it is rare. With the birth of new sects in later centuries, the pagoda lost importance and was consequently relegated to the margins of the garon. Temples of the Jodo sects rarely have a pagoda. During the Kamakura period, the Zen sect arrived in Japan and the temples do not normally include a pagoda. Pagodas originally were reliquaries and did not contain sacred images, but in Japan many, for example Horyuji's 5-storied pagoda, enshrine statues of various deities, to allow the opening of a room at the ground floor and therefore create some usable space. The pagoda's central shaft, which originally reached the ground, was shortened to the upper stories, where it rested on supporting beams. In the room are enshrined statues of the temple's main objects of worship. Inside Shingon pagodas there can be paintings of deities called Shingon hasso. On the ceiling and on the central shaft there can be decorations and paintings. Design and structure or evolution. The edge of a pagoda's eaves forms a straight line, with each following edge being shorter than the other. The more difference in length in Japanese between stories, the more solid and secure the pagoda seems to be. Both Taigen and the finial are greater in older pagodas, giving them a sense of solidity. Vice versa, recent pagodas tend to be steeper and have shorter finials, creating svelte silhouettes. For the structural point of view, old pagodas had stone base over which stood the main pillar. Around it would be erected the first stories supporting pillars, then the beams supporting the eaves, and so on. The other stories would be built over the completed one, and on top of the main pillar would at last be inserted the finial. In later eras, all of the supporting structures would be erected at once, and later to them were fixed parts of served more cosmetic function. Early pagodas had a central pillar that penetrated deep into the ground. With the evolution of architectural techniques, it was first put to rest on a base stone at ground level. Then it was shortened and put to rest on beams at the second story to allow the opening of a room. The role within the temple declined gradually while they were being functionally replaced by main halls. Originally the centerpiece of the Shingon and Tendai Garen, they were moved later to its edges and finally abandoned, in particular by the Zen sects, the last to appear in Japan. Loss of importance of the pagoda within the Garen because of the relics they contained. Wooden pagodas used to be the centerpiece of the Garen, the 7 edifices considered indispensable for a temple. They gradually lost of importance and were replaced by the kondo, because of the magic powers believed to lie within the images the building housed. This loss of status was so complete that Zen schools, which arrived late in Japan from China, normally do not have any pagoda in the Garen. The layout of 4 early temples clearly illustrates this trend. They are in chronological order: Asuka-dera, Shiten-oji, Horyuji, and Yakushi-ji. In the first, the pagoda was at the very center of the Garen, surrounded by 3 small kondo. In the second, a single kondo is at the center of the temple and the pagoda lies in front of it. At Horyuji, they are one next to the other. Yakushi-ji has a single, large kondo at the center with 2 pagodas on the sides. The same evolution can be observed in Buddhist temples in China. Stone pagodas. Stone pagodas are usually made of materials like apatite or granite, are much smaller than wooden ones and are finely carved. Often they bear Sanskrit inscriptions, Buddhist figurines and Japanese lunar calendar dates. Nengo. Like wooden ones, they are mostly classifiable on the basis of the number of stories as tasoto or hoto, but there are however some styles hardly ever seen in wood, namely the garinto, the muhoto, the Hokkyo-into and the Kasatoba. Tasoto or Tayuto, with a few very rare exceptions. Tasoto have an odd number of stories, normally comprised between 3 and 13. They are usually less than 3 meters tall, but they can occasionally be much taller. The tallest still extant is a 13-story pagoda at Hanyaji in Nara, which is 14.12 meters. They are often dedicated to Buddha and offer no usable room, but some have a small space inside which holds a sacred image. In the oldest extant specimen, while the edge of each story are parallel to the ground, each successive story is smaller than the next, resulting in a strongly slanted curve. More modern tasoto tend to have a less pronounced curve. Media related to tasoto at Wikimedia Commons. Hoto. A hoto is a pagoda consisting of 4 parts: a low foundation stone, a cylindrical body with a rounded top, a 4-sided roof and a finial. Unlike the similar tahoto, it has no enclosed pent roof around its circular core. Like the tahoto, it takes its name from Buddhist deity Taho Nairai. The hoto was born during the early Heian period, when the Tendai and Shingon sects first arrived in Japan. Indeed, because it does not exist on the Asian continent, it is believed to have been invented in Japan. There used to exist full-size hoto, but almost only miniature ones survive, normally made of stone and or metal. Media related to hoto at Wikimedia Commons. Garinto. The garinto is a pagoda found almost only in Japan and believed to have been first adopted by the Shingon and Tendai sects during the mid-Heian period. It is used as a tomb marker or as a cenotaph, and is therefore a common sight in Buddhist temples and cemeteries. It is also called Gorin Sotoba or Goring Adatsu, where the term sotoba is a transliteration of the Sanskrit word stupa. In all its variations, the garinto is made of 5 blocks, each having one of the 5 shapes which symbolize of the 5 elements believed to be the basic building blocks of of reality, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, energy, or void. The last two rings are visually and conceptually united into a single subgroup. Media related to Garinto at Wikimedia Commons. Hokyo-Into. The Hokyo-Into is a large stone pagoda called because it originally contained the Hokyo and Dharani Sutra. It was originally used as a cenotaph for the king of Wuyu, Qian Liu in China. The Hokyo-Into tradition in Japan is believed to have begun during the Asuka period. They used to be made of wood and started to be made in stone only during the Kamakura period. It is also during this period that they started to be used as tombstones and cenotaphs. The Hokyo-Into started to be made in its present form during the Kamakura period. Like a Garinto, it is divided in 5 main sections representing the 5 elements of Japanese cosmology. The sutra it sometimes hides contain all the pious deeds of a Tathagata Buddha, and the faithful believe that, by praying in front of the Hokyo-Into, the sins will be cancelled. During the lives they will be protected from disasters, and after death they will go to heaven. Media related to Hokyo-Into at Wikimedia Commons. Muhoto Aranto. The Muhoto Aranto is a pagoda which usually marks the gravesite of a Buddhist priest. It was originally used by just the Zen schools, but it was later adopted by the others too. Its characteristic egg-shaped upper portion is supposed to be a phallic symbol. Media related to Muhoto at Wikimedia Commons. Kasatoba. A kasatoba is simply a square stone post placed over a square basin covered by a pyramidal roof. Over the roof stand a bowl-shaped stone and a lotus-shaped stone. The shaft can be carved with Sanskrit words or low-relief images of Buddhist gods. Within the shaft there can be stone wheels which allow the faithful to turn the stupa around while praying, thus with a prayer wheel. Media related to Kasatoba at Wikimedia Commons. Sorinto. The Sorinto is a type of small pagoda consisting just of a pole and a sorin. Wooden pagodas. Tasoto. Wooden tasoto are pagodas with an odd number of stories. Some may appear to have an even number because of the presence between stories of purely decorative enclosed pent roofs called mokoshi. A famous example is Yakushi-ji's Eastern Pagoda, which seems to have 6 stories but has in fact only 3. Another is the Tahoto, which has a single story plus a mokoshi under its roof and seems therefore to have 2 stories. There existed specimen with 7 and 9 stories, but all extant ones have either 3 or 5. Tanzanjinja in Sakuri, Nara, has a pagoda having 13, which however for structural reasons is classified separately, and is not considered a tasoto. The oldest 3-storied pagoda stands at Nara's Hokkiji and was built between 685 and 706. The oldest extant 5-storied pagoda belongs to Horyuji and was built sometime during the Asuka period. The tallest wooden tasoto belongs to Taiji, Kyoto. It has 5 stories and is 54 meters tall. Media related to tasoto at Wikimedia Commons. Hoto. A wooden hoto is a rare type of pagoda consisting of 4 parts. A low foundation stone, a cylindrical body with a rounded top, a pyramidal roof and a finial. Unlike the similar Tahoto, it has no square enclosed pent roof around its cylindrical core. Like the Tahoto, it takes its name from Buddhist deity Taho Nairai. The Hoto was born during the early Heian period, when the Tendai and Shingon Buddhist sects first arrived in Japan. There used to be many full-size Hoto, but almost only miniature ones survive, normally made of stone and or metal. A good example of full-size Hoto can be seen at Ikegami Honmonji in Nishimagama, Tokyo. The pagoda is 17.4 meter tall and 5.7 meter wide. Media related to Hoto at Wikimedia Commons. Ta-hoto. The ta-hoto is a type of wooden pagoda unique for having an even number of stories, the first square with a rounded core, the second circular. This style of ta was created surrounding the cylindrical base of a hoto with a square, roofed corridor called mokoshi. The core of the pagoda has just one story with its ceiling below the circular second story, which is inaccessible. Like the Tasoto and the Romon, in spite of its appearance it therefore offers usable space only at the ground floor. Because its kind does not exist either in Korea or in China, it is believed to have been invented in Japan during the Heian period. The ta-hoto was important enough to be considered one of the 7 indispensable buildings of a Shingen temple. Kukai himself is responsible for the construction of the ta-hoto at Mount Koya's Kongabuji. Daito. Usually the base of a ta-hoto is 3 ken across with 4 main, supporting pillars called shitenbashira at the corners. The room, the shitenbashira, houses a sanctuary where the main objects of worship are enshrined. Larger, 5 by 5 ken ta-hoto however exist and are called daito because of the dimensions. This is the only type of ta-hoto to retain the original structure with a wall separating the corridor from the core of the structure. This type of pagoda used to be common, but of all daito ever built, only 3 are still extant. One is at Wakayama Prefecture's Nagoroji, another at Kongabuji, again in Wakayama, and the last at Kirihata-dera, Tokushima Prefecture. The daito at Kongabuji was founded by Shingen sect's Kukai. The specimen found at Nagoroji is 30.85 meters tall and a national treasure. Media related to daito at Wikimedia Commons. Media related to ta-hoto at Wikimedia Commons. Sotoba, often offertory strips of wood with 5 subdivisions and covered with elaborate inscriptions called sotoba, can be found at tombs in Japanese cemeteries. The inscriptions contain sutana and the posthumous name of the dead person. The name derives from the Sanskrit stupa, and they can be also considered pagodas. Media related to sotoba at Wikimedia Commons. Gallery of pagodas in Japan. Bibliography. Awanami Koji and Japanese Dictionary, 6th edition, DVD version, JAANUS. Japanese Architecture and ArtNet Users System. Retrieved 19 August 2010. Fujita Masaya, Koga Shusaku's ed. Nippon Kenshi Kushi, Shoedu, ISBN 4812298059. Scheid, Bernhard. Japanisch Pagoden. University of Vienna. Retrieved 19 August 2010. Shinko no Katachi, Hokyo Into, Jatsushiro Municipal Museum, accessed on September 18, 2008.